Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of the Pittsburgh Philharmonic podcast. In this episode, I'm really excited to bring you a special interview with our conductor, Mr. Jeffrey Klefstad. So, please enjoy. Okay, so welcome everybody. We are here with a very, very special guest, Mr. Jeffrey Klefstad, the current conductor of the Pittsburgh Philharmonic. And I'm really, really excited to interview him. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Do you like Mr. Klefstad or Jeffrey or
You can just call me Jeff, Jeffrey, whatever. I'm pretty flexible.
Maestro? So, so I have some questions. I just wanted to just kind of touch on a few different things that I think the listeners would be interested in. The goal of this whole podcast is to get people to personalize the orchestra, to put a name with a face, and with the hopes that if they come to the concert, that they're not going to be just listening to music, but they're going to be thinking, "Hey, I know who that guy is. I heard about him on the thing," or "Oh, he's the one who makes violins on the side," or he's I think it's going to make it a much more interesting experience for them if we do that.
Certainly,
So
yes.
that's the part of the goal of why I like doing these interviews. All right, so let's first talk about your background a little bit.
Sure.
So I think you and I have something sort of in common. We both came from the Dakotas.
Yeah.
We were raised there. So we know a little bit about extreme winter and that kind of stuff. I was
Right.
from South Dakota, so it's a little balmier down there probably.
Just well, it can be a little bit balmier. Yes. Yeah, I grew up. I just grew up on the borders of North and South Dakota, just about 10 miles in the North Dakota border in a small town called Foreman, North Dakota. But my parents grew up on both sides of the border. And so, yeah, that my upbringing was in a very rural area. So Pittsburgh is the second city, if you, for most people would call it a city, that I have lived in. Um, and so it was different and is different, but I've adapted and I call myself a Pittsburgher. Been here for about 13 years. So um, I still have close ties to a home in the Dakotas, but I could consider this home, of course, as well.
Sure, I understand. So we've talked a little bit about how you have Scandinavian background,
Mhm.
and I assume that's in your family. I'm kind of curious, how to what degree has that ethnicity, for lack of a better word, how has that shaped your musical tastes and selections, and or has it at all?
Well, let's see. Um, from what's kind of unique about at least where I grew up in North Dakota, that portion of the state was had a lot of Scandinavian heritage. While like the further west you go in the Dakotas, it's more Germanic Irish and so forth. But of course, being close to Minnesota, we also they have a strong Scandinavian tradition. Um, it was there seemed to be a lot of at least support from my community growing up. A number of my friends and the families that I grew up around are of Scandinavian descent. I don't know exactly uh, if that just to me never really thought of anything of it, but there's a lot of different support for music making in the community, whether that be in church, which was normal, but also going out and playing for events and being in school as well. A lot of people were pushed that way. But when I went to college, at Concordia College in Minnesota, uh, I got more of this. It's a liturgical school that was mostly of a Scandinavian kind of heritage, founded by Norwegians, and there was a lot of tradition, I would say, in the choral tradition part of it, that kind of had this influence on me. At least I grew up in a certain church tradition, Lutheran tradition. So um, I kind of gravitated towards that just because there's a certain sound that you're used to hearing as you're growing up. And when uh, I came across, even though not necessarily Scandinavian, Nordic, Jean Sibelius, I was always kind of gravitated toward Edvard Grieg, but Sibelius, I kind of gravitated to more of um, that style, and have enjoyed that music ever since, and exploring that. So um, I don't even know if that fully answers your question, but
Well, there's no right or wrong, but it's a good answer. Just out of curiosity, at what point did you start like getting interested in music and knowing that that was going to be your path going forward?
oh wow. I mean, when I first started music, it was because my brother and my sister, a year older and 4 years older, were playing piano. And like a young sibling, you want to be like your older siblings in a way. And so uh, I wanted to play piano too. So I started at about 5. But my dad played trumpet, and his father played trumpet. And so he would doodle on his instrument every once in a while when I was really young. And then my brother ended up playing trumpet, and my sister played saxophone, and I picked up the trumpet. My grandfather was very much into jazz, and so he and I he would invite me over for like listening sessions, and or pick me up in his truck and just want to share a CD with me or a tape with me of something new. Um, I knew that I wanted to go into music pretty early. Well, I would say middle school. Uh, you know, like a young kid who had a deep passion for something, you would dream about just performing. I would have these dreams that I remember just performing in front of big crowds here and there. I wanted to be at a young age when I started playing trumpet. I wanted to be the next principal trumpet of New York Phil. I mean, that was my world at that time. And then so I ended up pursuing trumpet and voice in college, actually. And kind of the rest is history. And from there, continued on to a couple of graduate programs that then led me here to Pittsburgh.
Excellent. Looking at some of your background information, your work has been described as having a strong attention to detail and innovative programming.
Hmm.
So, how would you describe your approach as a conductor?
Um, my approach in conducting is that I want everybody to succeed. We can be very meticulous to the score, and I think that's important. But for me, at least, I want people to, I hope, find the same meaning and joy in a piece of music, no matter if they like it or not. That there is a significance to it. And my attention to detail is just to make sure we're not just going through the motions, and that we are considering why did a composer do this, and what effect is it supposed to create um, because of it. And I just want to make sure that in the end we all have the same goal, we all have the same strategy going forward. And I know I can be quite like on the nose in terms of making sure that everybody is upholding their end of the bargain. But I mean, it takes a group. I mean, to be able to for 60 or 70 people to have the same intuition and the exact same interpretation of something, it takes a lot of focus for all of us to be able to achieve that. And for me, I want to make sure, just as a conductor, to make sure that we are all on the same page, so that there's nobody or no group or instrument that's falling outside the lines of what we've agreed to, kind of as a collective.
It's kind of a miracle when it all comes together, if you think about it.
It is. It's the it's what's amazing about the rehearsal process is the audience only gets to see the finished product, but from the beginning, I it's so much fun to be able to go back if you have the opportunity. Like I record rehearsals because I do my notes and can't necessarily remember everything, but I just want to get as much out of it as possible to provide for the players themselves for our all benefit, our entire benefit. But to see the progress being made, that is something that I think that I wish audience members could see more of. But of course, they want to see that finished product, and may not want to see early stages. But I mean, that's for everything when you put it to that.
Sure. So I was hoping we could pivot towards the upcoming concert that we have on May 10th.
Certainly,
Um, so you selected the pieces, right?
yes.
So first of all, let's talk about the pieces themselves. What made you want to pick? We're doing Ralph Vaughan Williams Symphony 5, and of course, there's the Saint-Saëns Cello Concerto Number 1, and the new piece. Forgive me,
The
JP
Village
Saxophone.
and the Hero's Last
Thank you
Stand.
very much. It's
Yeah,
very, very good.
yeah,
And so just tell me a little bit about what went into your decision making about that.
yeah. So whenever I select a program, there are different methodologies and formulas that conductors, artistic groups trying to take can take when selecting programs. And one way is trying to find a cornerstone piece that kind of anchors everything together. So really the big piece or the medium-sized piece that everything can be built around. For me, at this program, this final cycle, I looked at the previous history, at least when since this is my first season with the Philharmonic officially, what has been done or what other organizations have done, what usually encompasses a season finale type of concert. And of course, the finale, the last concert of the year, typically tends to be a very big program, something that sends you off with and gets the audience really excited. And I think that's great and wonderful. But I've known of the Vaughan Williams Symphony Number 5 for a while, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, but I just didn't fully have a reason to do it yet. And I thought for us, as I'm trying to explore and navigate various repertoires with the group during my first season, just to see what we kind of gravitate towards, I thought this would be a great piece for us just to kind of lay back and relax and just let something unfold very, very organically and naturally. It it doesn't necessarily end with this triumphant feeling, but it kind of just fades away in a very relaxed and reposed manner. And so I wanted to try that and see if it grew on the group. And I've sensed that it really has had an effect on the group. It has a wonderful, just long lyrical lines. Um, and for Vaughan Williams, calling it he borrowed some material from his opera Pilgrim's Progress that he was working on during the time. So he stopped work on that and then began to work on the Fifth Symphony. And eventually, he finished the Fifth Symphony and then went on to complete the opera. But he used some materials and recycled it in between. He was 70 years old when he composed the symphony, and I thought, a Pilgrim's Progress would be a kind of a great theme if you're a fan of themes or things that tie a concert together, because in the fall, we have our annual young person's concerto competition, the Lorraine Lippert Concerto Competition. And we have a fantastic cellist who won this year, Albert Dong, who presented a very, very convincing and impressive audition on the Saint-Saëns first cello concerto. And this, I think, helps fall into the mold, and I'll get to that in just a second, within the Pilgrim's Progress. And if you add in the Young Composer Contest winner with this, it kind of creates a nice flow from one piece to the other, in which we're kind of tracing this pilgrimage, if you would say, this awakening that goes that asks somebody, a new voice, to invite us onto this road, and then to the Saint-Saëns, you have this one voice, and the cello concerto itself is through composed. It's not like three individual movements. It's actually one continuous piece. So it's this kind of dramatic, our type of feeling on the road as pilgrims, and then arrival for the Vaughan Williams, and this kind of celestial benedictive arrival point, that then Vaughan Williams takes on through this journey. And so that's the overall concept of the program itself for this final season. Each quite different in their style. You know, Vaughan Williams, very, people would describe it as pastoral and reflective. The Saint-Saëns has that fiery energy, independent energy, and romanticism in it. And then the new work, of course, being fresh and new ideas that are always important to making sure that the classical medium continues to move forward, with Jake Pizak's piece, The Village and the Hero's Last Stand.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, it occurs to me for, say, first time attendees to the concert or people that aren't as familiar with classical music, is there anything quickly that you want them to know about Ralph Vaughan Williams as a composer or Saint-Saëns? Any anecdotes or anything that would make it a little more interesting to a first time listener?
Hmm. Well, for Ray Vaughan Williams, he was contemporaries, with Elgar, Gustav Holst, and so forth. But if you're not familiar with the, English composers and everything, what's wonderful is that, um, he, for the First World War, he volunteered for the First World War, and he did a number of things that helped contribute to the English repertoire, like a lot of composers in Europe at the time, but not just specifically to Europe. Uh, they started to look inwards to national type of ideas, and so he's very, very well versed in English hymnals, in our hymns, and was actually an editor of an English hymnal for a while. And there are two famous hymns within, that he composed, that he quotes within the symphony itself. That the first one, For All the Saints, from Sine Nomine, and in the last movement, he quotes All Creatures of Our God and King, and what is infused in a Passacaglia, this repeated motive that undergirds the entire movement. But for him as a person, I, like my personal experience, he did a lot of band music, so a lot of wind band music. So if you're not necessarily familiar with orchestral works, he did a lot of wind ensemble stuff as well as choral music. So I thought, Vaughan Williams is always been just a wonderful composer, an easy composer to listen to. There's nothing intellectual that you need to nitpick here and there. He makes it kind of unfold naturally. With Saint-Saëns, Saint-Saëns was he was let's just say, he fantastic composer. He touched all the different mediums in music, and from ballet to opera, concerti, symphonies, chamber music, and there's a lot of chamber music that people don't know of. So if you could listen to that, you can get a really good idea of his musical language. But he's most known for, the Danse Macabre from Samson and Delilah, his opera, that many people would associate with, Halloween, and his Symphony Number 3, the Organ Symphony, which is a really, really, really great work. But he
Carnival of
wrote
the Animals?
Carnival of the Animals. Yes, I forgot about that one. And he wrote three violin concerti, two cello concerti, five piano concerti. I mean, just a lot of music, um, and was considered a young prodigy as a child. Loved it, like Mendelssohn, Mozart, Bach, just very in tune. But with music, but also with kind of helping rejuvenate, along with a few other, of course, French composers of the time, rejuvenating the French idiom or style of their music, that was, they say, during that time was kind of being stifled or pushed out by Austrian Germanic music at the time. So to kind of rediscover their music.
So it occurs to me, to a first time audience member of the orchestra, there may be people that are coming to see us for the first time. They've never maybe even seen an orchestra concert before.
Mhm.
To a young listener like that, or first time listener, what type of things would your advice to them, like what to listen for, what to pay attention to, or even etiquette? What's the proper way to be a good audience member? I think we need to educate sometimes people about that.
Right. Well, if I were a first-time newcomer to an audience, we are so we are so kind of attached to our phones as kind of an extra part of our body nowadays, uh, that I would say, take this time to just really be there in the moment, and that's the whole purpose, is to be there in the moment. Just listen and see how the music can affect you. Don't try to find anything. If don't try not to let your mind wander. Just let yourself be in the place and just let the music enter and see what kind of reaction you can get. It may be a good reaction, maybe a bad reaction. And that will then, I feel, help determine where the mind wants to wander. If it wants to gravitate towards themes or harmonies, or even just the overall arc of a piece. I would always ask that the put away the phone. And if that's not a case, where we can't necessarily do that, I would encourage them to just maybe look up while they're listening. I mean, don't want to encourage people on their phone, but look up what things about the piece that may not be in the program notes. Um, and in terms of like other types of concert etiquette, clapping is allowed in between movements. There's not many, like with, like, say, the Pittsburgh Symphony, or other organizations, you may not hear clapping between movements. Um, but it is generally okay, because if you were really touched and moved by that, uh, by a movement or so, we want you to express that. It doesn't pull too much focus from the audience members or from the players themselves, but just do it in tasteful manner. Um, yeah, there could be a lot of things, that we could address. I mean, what I try to do before a piece is to give a little bit of a background, and if necessary, ask the audience, try to listen for this. I'm big on orchestration, so I try to give a bigger picture of what they're about to listen to, so then we have a better understanding before we begin, rather than trying to figure out what happens in between. So there's different avenues that we could navigate in terms of etiquette at a concert, and um, what to do, what not to do, or how we should be in the space.
Just if I can interject, I think from a really basic, just entry level view, let's say someone who's never been to an orchestra concert,
Sure.
from a musical standpoint, I would encourage them to, for example, do something like see if you can identify like what instrument is playing the melody at that particular moment.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the violins, maybe it's the oboe, maybe it's the
Hmm.
trombone. Who knows? But listen for those places where the melody changes to different either sections or different instruments, and try to identify the name of the instrument. Actually, look at the instrument and go, is that a viola or is that a violin? I'm not sure. Like, let's
Yeah.
figure this out. I think that just little things like that can make it much more interesting from an audience perspective.
Yes.
And also watching the conductor. How are you navigating, directing the orchestra? What techniques are you using? emphasis, with your body language and things like that. That also makes it very interesting. I think a lot of first time viewers, they have this perception that a conductor is just waving their arms around this kind of randomly. It's like, oh, anyone could do that. They don't understand what's really going on.
that can be partly true, and depends on what side of the bed you wake up on that day. It's yeah. I mean, they're the gesture. There are pre-thought gestures for conducting because you're taught certain basics and everything, but also there has to be spontaneity. Just like in music in general, there's spontaneity that you just have to be in the moment, be in the moment, and go and basically read the room and just go with that, and what will strike something that will be extremely effective, and just comes out of thin air, which is, I think, part of the magic of music making.
I've often thought that music could be thought of as the language of emotion.
Certainly.
Because if you notice, you could be in any part of the planet and you could have a group of people that don't share the same spoken language at all, but yet they all understand crystal clear what's going on when you play a piece of, say classical music or even other types of music. So
Hmm.
music clearly is trying to express some type of an emotion that's common to all human beings. And that's another thing I would ask the listener to do is to just ask the question, what type of emotion at this particular moment is trying to be conveyed right now? And it could be different for every person. We all have our emotions are dictated by our different experiences and whatnot, but I think that's a good thing to keep the audience active. What is
Of
Ralph
course.
Vaughan Williams trying to tell you right at this particular moment? What is he trying to
And
get you to feel?
yes, and to kind of reemphasize what you just said, active is an important thing. Uh, audiences have a feeling that they're being very passive, and one of the things nowadays is that we want our audiences to be more active and engaged in the concert itself. And it you can come to a performance and just relax and be, as I mentioned earlier. But also you could come to a performance curious, and being like with Walt Whitman's, and be curious and be like, what do you really think is happening here? I mean, if you want to go in depth, I mean, it will keep you engaged, and a more engaged audience, I feel, creates a more enthusiastic audience, that keeps coming back for future concerts. So active participation is a good goal, and way of going about it.
Yeah, I agree. It's not like watching TV or going to the movies. Like you, as an audience member, are a part of the performance. Believe it or not,
Mhm.
you're a very important part of the performance.
And we feed off their energy. We can sense when there's good buzz within the audience. We can sense there's ooh, this is going to be interesting, and this and everything. And like anything, you can sense when there's not that buzz in a room. It's so we always want that high energy, curiosity buzz that's going along, so that because we then feed off of that. I know that as a conductor, I can feel that kind of behind me, but also I can sense where that is in the orchestra itself, and I feed off the orchestra, and I think it just makes a much more enjoyable experience and concert program.
So as we're kind of getting more towards the end of the interview, let's talk about the orchestra itself. You are conductor of the Pittsburgh Philharmonic.
Mhm.
Um, you know, what excites you about the future of the orchestra now that you are at the helm? Or what would you like audiences specifically to know about this particular concert or the orchestra in general?
Well, what I find wonderful about the Pittsburgh Philharmonic and what gravitated me towards it is because of the community it creates. Um, Being in community orchestra, I think this is music is a shared experience, and it takes a village. And the orchestra as a Pittsburgh Philharmonic has been around for 50 years, so obviously it's had a huge impact on the community. And you know, I personally want to see that to go for another 50 years, um, in continuing to grow and inspire and bring in new people. I mean, we've had, from what I understand, there's been a number of new people by the previous director brought in, people of all backgrounds, but from different parts of the Pittsburgh region. We have the student side by side concert that we get a number of students from the North Hills, but also as far away as West Virginia. To be able to have our reach, to bring in more people just to enjoy music. And our whole mission is to be able to provide, affordable, fun, innovative concerts for the entire community. And that's just not us where we're based in the North Hills, that's for the entire Pittsburgh region. So my hope is that we can do even more outreach in some ways in the future, whether that be trying to perform in different venues just to see different audiences, while at the same time maintaining our current audience, and also expanding the repertoire a little bit more that's outside of our comfort zone, but that just expands our understanding and appreciation for different types of music, and also to try and find different ways we can collaborate with different organizations around the Pittsburgh region.
Fantastic. Well, Jeffrey, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy and your time is very valuable, and I appreciate you taking out time to talk to me and to our listeners and to help get this podcast up and running. This is a very key part of it.
That's very cool.
So I see my job now as a collector of stories. And it's
Yeah.
my job to collect these different stories from all these different sources and assemble them into a coherent timeline. That's
Oh yeah, certainly.
so, and I love it.
No, it's great. I mean, I'm looking forward to see where it goes and everything. I mean,
and
I
the
think
the
it's on a
music
really good trajectory so far. So
the music that you're hearing is mostly Philharmonic. It's us,
great.
which is kind of exciting. So
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll let you go. I really, really appreciate it, and looking
No,
forward to more and more success as we go forward.
well, that success is all of ours. So, we all contribute to it. So, thank you for doing this, Ben. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And
All
I
right.
guess I'll see you on Monday.
See you on Monday. Have a
Okay.
great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Join us for an unforgettable evening with the Pittsburgh Philharmonic. On Sunday, May 10th, the orchestra takes the stage at the Masonic Center, located at 3579 Masonic Way in Pittsburgh. The program will feature Ralph Vaughan Williams' Symphony No. 5, a deeply expressive and serene masterpiece of the 20th century repertoire. We'll also present the Sansa Cello Concerto No. 1, performed by the winner of our Young Artist competition, showcasing the next generation of exceptional talent. And in celebration of new music, the concert will include the world premiere of The Village and the Hero's Last Stand, a powerful new work by the Young Composers Competition winner, Jay Pizak. In addition to the concert, we're proud to continue our commitment to music education through our annual Student Side-by-Side program. Students entering grades 8 through 12 are invited to audition for the opportunity to rehearse and perform alongside members of the Pittsburgh Philharmonic. The audition will take place on May 16th, with applications due by May 10th. We hope you'll join us for this inspiring evening of music and community. Visit our website for tickets and more information.